Hey, everybody, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you're having a good week as we reach week number 95 to flatten the curve. Just keep holding out there, folks. I'm sure it's going to taper off soon. So I'm assuming that you all saw the announcements yesterday, and I've had some time to simmer down since Premier Pudding Pop announced his new six-step plan to get us through the Coof apocalypse, and that's the topic for today's show. As I think it's front and center in everyone's mind right now. It certainly is. Certainly is for me. When we began to get the preliminary look at this coming out yesterday, I was very anxious to see what was going to be announced. And the other day, I had a chance to meet with Concerned American, and we sat down and had a little chat. And unfortunately, I couldn't get it at enough time to do an interview, which is something I'm still working on. That we're trying to get our schedules aligned to make that happen. But he and I had a chance to sit down for about an hour and get a conversation, and we talked about this, and we kind of looked at our estimates of what would be dictated to us yesterday, and I can tell you that reality kind of came in between the estimates. For the most part, the actual announcement was about what we felt it would be, but we were very off on some of the specifics. And what we discussed was the possibility, really, of something worse than what was announced. I won't go into all the details, but thankfully, we were very off about that. But we did expect the mandate for federal employees, but we did not see this demand that private businesses with more than 100 employees have to get the vax or show a weekly test. That kind of caught me off guard anyway, kind of surprised me. This is perhaps the most dangerous precedent in decades that we have seen an administration attempt to put into place. And I say attempt because I have no doubt this is going to court, and we're likely to see this drag through longer than the current Coof spike is even in play. Viruses have this rise and fall on their own, regardless of what you do to them, and this new spike will begin to decline in the near term. And it doesn't mean that we won't see a spike down the road, which we can kind of get into a little bit later. But anyway, the president also announced a few other requests and an additional mandate that all federal workers, all vendors for the federal government, and all contractors must be vaccinated. They won't have a weekly test option for that either. This was something that they had in place already, but this announcement was taking away that weekly test. And very quickly after this announcement, however, it was revealed that this mandate for federal workers didn't apply to the Postal Service, which it's very telling. And that alone tells me that this is not about health or safety. This is all about control and power. And we knew this to be the case, but that one little data point proves that beyond any reasonable doubt. Now let's go back and examine some of the problems with this mandate to private business. First off is the fact that this is an unconstitutional order. Okay, the federal government cannot dictate to private business that they must enact unconstitutional violations of civil rights. The government cannot have the power to demand that people take medications and farm that out to private business. They don't have that capacity on their own. They can't farm that demand out to private businesses. If this stands, then there is no limit to what the federal government can demand people do by coercion of employment. We've not even touched on the fact that this is not a law passed by elected officials. This is a dictator issuing royal decrees. Okay, he's acting way outside of the scope of the executive branch. Let's look at another aspect of this, just the implementation. How is this supposed to be implemented? This is a government demand that is being foisted off on private business to implement. They're not going to shoulder any of the burden or any of the process or anything. This is just, hey, here, we're telling you got to do this and you got to figure it out and pay for it. How are they supposed to keep track of these weekly tests? How are they supposed to be tracking who's vaxxed and who isn't vaxxed? You'll have to put an entire scheme for managing weekly tests and tracking of vaxxed versus unvaxxed, testing. This is madness. Again, by the time companies get this into place, the current wave is going to be subsiding, just all on its own. That's just the nature of how viruses work. If you have a company that is going to go forward with this, then my advice to you is make them deal with your weekly tests. Bury them with test results. Even if you've decided to already get the vaccine, go get the tests and make them take the paperwork. Make them eat this bowl of shit stew that they have brewed up for us. Make it so that these companies will go back and feel the burden that is being placed upon them. And they will go back and say, this is unsustainable, we can't do this. Because I know there's going to be companies that take this. There are going to be those who push back and say, no, we're not going to implement this. But there's going to be a lot of companies that bend over and take this. I think far too many of the big woke companies are going to bow down to this and accept it. But if you respect freedom at all, you have to stand up to this. I can't stress that enough, that this is the line in the sand that cannot be allowed to cross. Okay, we have to understand how dangerous this is. Again, if this is allowed to stand, then any demand from the president can be forced off on companies. It doesn't even have to be health related. This is an edict that has come down that says, you got to do this, and if you don't, we're going to fine your company. There's no functional difference between this demand and, for an example, to require weight loss, to require people get a tattoo, to require abortions, to require chip implants, to require that you give blood or donate organs, require you to get sterilized. Anything they want to make a so-called crisis, they can issue an executive order and force companies to implement it. Oh, sorry, if you don't do this, you don't have a job. You can't be employed. That's coercion. That's coercion. What about the other way around? And I don't normally like to get into the hypocrisy of the other side or these elites, because it's really kind of a fruitless argument. But let's step into that for a second. What if a conservative president began using this power to force companies to fire females who've had an abortion? Hey, you need to go through the records of all of your employees, and you need to get them to tell and admit that they've had an abortion, and if they've had one, you need to fire them. They can't work. It's an executive order. As the Clintons used to say, stroke of the pen, law of the land. I can guarantee you that the left would be up in literal arms if a president tried to do that. Because that would be crazy. That would be well outside the scope of presidential power. It's crazy to even think that we could unleash something like that on this country. Now, the conspiracy part of my mind, of course, says, this is all part of implementing a total control of our lives, and I don't want to downplay that possibility. That's totally on the table here. We can't ignore that. But if I step back from that edge a little bit, I have to look at this as something that they know is not going to fly. They have to know this. They have to know that this is going to court and it will get checked. I want to urge people to be patient here for a little bit to see how this plays out. We need to be cautious. We need to be poised and ready to act, but we need to wait. We need to be patient. Be prepared to fight over this. This is the hill that we have to stand on because we cannot allow this to go forward. But we need to be careful here and cautious about how we act too, because I think there's something far deeper and maybe not less sinister, maybe not more sinister, but who knows? It's all up in the air right now. But they are the cause of this. They are the ones demanding this and doing this to us. This is all on them, and it is their fault. We are absolved from any way that we resist this because of what they are doing to us. But like I said, we have to be cautious. We don't want to get played. We don't want to get maneuvered into doing something stupid. Now, this president has placed a target on the backs of every person who has made the decision to not take this medication. And there are very valid reasons for people to not want this. We have the right to not want to die by taking a medication that might kill us. Now, I'll go over this again because I covered this a few episodes back. I said kind of the same thing, but I want to reiterate it here. If you have taken the vaccine, then you don't have anything to worry about. You're not going to get sick from someone who is unvaxxed. You're not going to carry the virus and pass it around. You'll be just fine. I've heard people say, well, what about the kids who can't take the vax? Well, get those kids vaccinated and they'll be all right. Right? I mean, that's how they work, right? That's how vaccines work, right? Oh, wait a minute. So you can't get the vaccines to kids because it might be dangerous to them. Huh. That's really interesting. So how can that be? How can it be dangerous to those young folks but not be dangerous to an adult? This is the safest and most effective vaccine that we've ever produced, according to President Pudding Pop. I mean, at least it lasts for a long time, and you don't have to go get another dose, right? Wait, you mean even if you do go get the vaccine, you can still get sick, and you can still carry it around and pass it on to other people? And it looks like it only lasts for a few months, and then you have to get a booster? So the vaccine is not as effective as they're telling you, and it's not stopping anyone from actually getting sick, and it's not stopping anyone from spreading the virus, and any protection it does give you is only effective for a few months? So what's the point of forcing everyone to take a medication that's only somewhat effective and spending so much political capital in a fight to enact mandates to achieve that goal? So I'm going to wander off on a limb here for a little bit. As Joseph Farrell says, I'm going to wander out on a limb of speculation, way out on that little twig at the end. And here's my speculation. And I think they know this is going to the Supreme Court and this is what they want. They know the court will strike this down. And then that will become part of their impetus to stack the courts. I, I, I really think that this may not be more than anything than a really callous political play. Notice just a few hours before Biden spoke, he had his attorney general out there announcing that they were going to sue the state of Texas because of the abortion law that Texas enacted, that the Supreme Court's allowed to stand without, taking up the case. This entire thing could be a play to get their ultimate goal of completely stacking the court, so they can get that abortion and gun control and all these, big liberal leftist talking points. So they can get all of those in the court in front of a favorable court and get official stamp and approval. There's this adage that goes around that says that when the government does something outrageously stupid, that it is generally a distraction for something else that they are doing that they don't want you to pay attention to. Yesterday, what we saw was an epic, monumental level of stupidity coming from this administration. So, what are they really up to that they don't want you to pay attention to? And I think the court could be the target here, the ultimate target here. And maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe this is really just seriously the play and the end stages of that system of control, very Australian like that they're trying to implement. Maybe that's what it is. And it really is the hill that we have to hold on until the bitter end. But like I said, I want you to be patient and see how this thing shakes out for a little bit. Don't go off and do something crazy. At least, not yet. But what happens if it does go bad for us? Like I said, we're absolved from how we resist this. Do what you can. Do whatever you feel like is going to achieve the desired results. Do not limit yourself with one tactic. Assume everything is on the table and act accordingly. Because this will be it. This will be the signal that you should act. And I can't sugarcoat this any more than that. I can't hide this from you and tell you to not respond to this when it becomes clear where this is going. I hope we never get there and this thing just collapses of its own weight. And that is an option. I know hope is not a strategy, so you don't have to tell me that, but it's entirely another possible outcome to this. Maybe we see so much normie pushback from this that the result is the vast majority of the country just telling the government to sod off and, just ignoring them. Maybe this results in Biden being removed from office because he's clearly delusional and out of his mind. And his poll numbers are already in the tank, and I can't see this as doing anything to make those really turn around. When you got stadiums full of college kids chanting F Joe Biden, I don't think it's because they wanted him to enact the Coof mandate. I think this is the heel turn that we've kind of been expecting. At least I've been expecting. And he will have to be the evil bad guy now for some time. He will probably not get a chance to have that redemption storyline happen. This could be being pushed to cause that chaos that we know. I mean, we know this is happening. We know they're pushing this to cause chaos. The elites love chaos. And maybe they're going to sow that discord and chaos so that they can complete the final humiliation of the old straight white male. this may just be part of that humiliation storyline where Joe causes such a massive, colossal problem that he has to be removed, and then Kamala, or perhaps someone like maybe a Vice President Hillary, has to come in to restore order and confidence in the government. Maybe this is all just that part of that chaos that I've been talking about for quite some time to cause us to look away from Taiwan or the Ukraine. More Taiwan. I don't think I think Ukraine might have simmered down and be off the table, but Taiwan is certainly still in play. Maybe that's all this is. Maybe it's just sow this discord and this chaos in our country so that we are inwardly facing and we don't ignore, we just ignore, we don't give a crap about what's going on in Taiwan. We are having to live under this chaos that's taking place here. Australia is having the same thing. Who are the main, big rivals of China that might be looked at as potentially responding to something going on in Taiwan? Well, that would be the United States and Australia and Japan. So if we start seeing something happen in Japan along these same kind of lines, or maybe just some kind of chaos happening in Japan, I think we're going to know that that's what's happening. But I don't know, folks. This is clown world on steroids. I'm just speculating here. We're truly off the edge of the map, as Concerned American and I talked about. As he said, we're off the edge of the map, and here be monsters. So check your gear and your weapons, because it's more and more clear that we will be fighting those monsters sooner rather than later. This should be glaringly obvious to you at this point. We're down to the point where it's all just a matter of somebody blowing the whistle and going. And remember when I told you that we must find our courage and face our fears? Well, folks, this is the time. This is when you're going to have to do that. You got to dig deep down and find your courage to resist this. Do not give in to those fears of what might happen. Like I said, I'm speculating. None of this may come to pass. Maybe it all goes something completely different, maybe better, maybe worse. But we can't be afraid of it. When we come through this, we're going to be better off on the other side of it, regardless of what happens. Have faith, but do the work. Now, that's all I got time for this week, folks. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership. Also, if you get a chance, go over to YouTube and look for my channel over there, WRSA Radio. And even if you've seen the video, you've watched it on BitChute or one of the other platforms, go over there on YouTube and, set it and let it play and walk away. You don't have to watch it over, but at least if you let it play, it shows the views and starts working on that algorithm. Share that link with your normie friends so I'll get some YouTube traffic. A lot of people are hesitant to go outside to other platforms that they've never heard of. Maybe you send somebody to BitChute and they go to BitChute and they see some of the other stuff on BitChute and they go, "Ooh, I'm scared to be over here with all these crazy people." But YouTube is generally more, attractive and palatable for people. So share that link with your friends. Share that with your family and everything. That's really why I set it up. And I ask you to go over there and try to work that algorithm because I want it to be monetized and I want big tech to pay me money and help fund the resistance. So so go over there. It's shameless, folks. Just completely shameless. I'm not going to ever ask you for money, but if my videos are monetized, and when they go to YouTube, they are monetized. So if you go over there and you do the views, maybe I'll get a few pennies from them, some shekels. But anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode.